YouTube, welcome back. This video is going to be about debunking the NVIDIA app. The video did not go as planned today, unfortunately. Well, it's kind of a good thing. It looks like they have fixed a lot of things with the NVIDIA app. So long story short, I was testing GeForce a long time ago, sort of when I started the channel, but maybe a little bit later. GeForce was pretty bad. To have it installed while using filters, you'd lose about 100 FPS. And when they brought out the NVIDIA app, I rechecked it and it was still about 100 FPS loss. Let's say something semi GPU bound, but high frame rate kind of game, Call of Duty. At 400 frames, I'd lose 100, right? So I'd only get 300 frames. So filters was pretty bad, but it looks like they patched it and you'll see that in this video here today. And another reason why I wanted to do this video is when they brought out the NVIDIA app, the performance stats overlay was fine on GeForce. And then they ended up making it worse on the NVIDIA app. So what used to happen when the NVIDIA app first came out, you would lose 60 FPS just having Alt F3 performance stats overlay on. And that's another one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, but it looks like they patched that too. So now you actually don't lose frame rate with the NVIDIA performance overlay on. Now, I believe Hardware Unboxed did a video on this, and at the time people were just uninstalling the NVIDIA app, didn't really know what was causing the issue. The overlay is fine. GeForce overlay is fine. The NVIDIA app overlay is fine. What was causing issues with the NVIDIA app was the performance statistics overlay, Alt F3, that was causing issues, but that's been patched. So like I said, this video didn't really turn out how I planned, but it's kind of cool. So enjoy the video. So a lot of people get paranoid about the NVIDIA app. So today we're going to test the NVIDIA app not installed at all, the NVIDIA app installed, but nothing on other than just the overlay. So AltZ works, right? Then we're gonna benchmark filters on or off, and then we'll benchmark the statistics overlay on or off, and then we'll also benchmark replay buffing and recording together, because generally speaking, there isn't any stacking. So if you replay buffer, it's using the same encoder, so you could record at the same time as well. So I just did both of them together. Now, I like to set up the NVIDIA app, generally speaking, when I install it at first, it'll give me an option to automatically optimize newly added games and apps. I turn that off completely. I like to turn automatically download and let me choose drivers to install. I do not want that, okay? And generally speaking, I turn filters off and NVIDIA overlay off. And then when I want to record, I'll have the NVIDIA overlay on. It's pretty straightforward. Notifications, I like to turn these off. It's up to you. About, I like to uncheck configuration, performance, usage data, and error and crash data. Just like to uncheck those so that none of their business. The rest is kind of whatever. One thing that I will mention in this video, just if any of you guys have a 50 series card and you're trying to use multi-frame generation, there are a bunch of supported games, but I wanted to use it in an unsupported game that had normal frame gen, but I wanted to use 4 times now that I have a 5090. It wouldn't work, and I couldn't get multi-frame gen, which is this thing, to work like at all. But if I installed the NVIDIA app, even if everything was disabled, I could do it with NVIDIA Profile Inspector. So something weird going on there. I didn't do it in here either. I can't remember what game I was playing. It would have been Oblivion, I think. Oblivion came out, and there's no official driver support or no multi-frame generation support. Yeah, Oblivion remastered, and the game runs horribly. Like, I only get 120 FPS outside. In 4K tune settings, and I wanted to use frame generation, didn't quite give me enough. I wanted multi-frame generation, and multi-frame generation at 4 times. I was running around getting 300. I know it's fake frames, I know it adds latency, but it's a single player game and it gave me a smooth experience. But it wouldn't let me do it in here. Kind of was buggy, but I could do it in an inspector, but it wouldn't work in an inspector unless I had the NVIDIA app installed. Made no sense to me, thought I'd mention it. Now, if you want to muck around with settings, I really recommend not using this. Just use the legacy NVIDIA control panel, like this guy here. Please just use this. I still find the NVIDIA app fairly buggy as far as doing this kind of stuff in here. Even in the global settings, I'm not a fan. I know the new UI is cool and it's way overdue that they've actually done this, but it's still don't find it very reliable. And as far as like if you want to overclock your card, please don't do it here. Just use something like MSI Afterburner. Please, you're going to be doing a lot more. It'll be a better experience. Just use MSI Afterburner if you want to overclock your card. So the whole auto optimize thing, like I mentioned, guys, I'd recommend leaving it off. What that does is it will auto optimize the game config for you, which in theory sounds really great. But what happens here is when you do it, it kind of just gives its own values that NVIDIA think are the best, and they're not necessarily the best for frames. I tried it with Cyberpunk and it actually lowered my frames compared to the settings that I had. Didn't know what was going with that there, even though I turned it on and then turned the slider all the way down to like performance. So you're better off just manually tuning your settings. And I wouldn't want NVIDIA constantly changing my graphics settings with the auto optimize anyway. So you can kind of just do it yourself, set and forget. It is a cool feature though, and it's kind of what I'm trying to do on my GitHub game scripts, but I actually found it quite buggy too. With Black Ops 6, it didn't work at all. At the moment I've deleted the config file because I'm not using the game at the moment, but this would show up when I had the config file there, and when I tried doing it, booting the game, it didn't change the settings. I tried multiple times. So but then again, I did it for Cyberpunk and then it did work, so go figure. But I wouldn't be using this feature, guys. I'd be doing your game settings manually. Let's get into AltZ. We've got statistics here. I would recommend leaving that off unless you need the overlay. This, you used to lose 60 frames with it, but as you'll see, my benchmarks that I'm about to show you guys, they've actually patched it, which is really cool. I personally prefer frame view. It is much better, but this is technically frame view baked into the NVIDIA overlays, so I guess it's kind of cool. Game filter, I really recommend just turning that off. It's not as bad as it used to be. You guys will see the benchmarks soon. What else in here? Highlights, turn off. I find it really unreliable. Most of the time it will clip a game for you, but not even clip the right moment. So just don't use highlights. Turn that off completely. And we'll go to the rest is sort of fine. Go to settings, file and disk space. Word of advice, do not put the temp file location or the recording file on a hard drive. A lot of the time, if you're doing a higher bandwidth, like a bit rate, sorry, like over 50,000 bit rate, sometimes a hard drive won't be able to keep up and you'll get stuttering in your recordings because the hard drive kind of can't keep up to write to it. So just make sure you have that set to an SSD, not a hard drive. I've seen that issue many a time before. Video capture, it's more of a preference thing. I usually leave desktop capture off. If you want to clip your desktop, that's fine. I like 2 minutes. The rest is sort of preference. Now the default is 90. I don't know why. So on GeForce Experience, it used to be 50. Now I'm still just using 50 if I was to use this, and I've benchmarked today in 50 just to let you guys know. But you can experiment around with this. I really feel like if you're doing 1080p, 1440p, 50 is more than enough. Maybe if you go to 4K, maybe 60, 80 max, but I did not benchmark this any higher. So if you crank this all the way up, there might be a little bit more of an FPS impact. And yeah, it's cool. You can use AV1 now if any of you guys are interested. And yeah, that should be sort of a nicer recording, but I didn't benchmark AV1 today. I'm sorry about that, but I'm sure most of you guys can just boot up a game with an FPS scanner and have a bit of a look. I wanted to sort of benchmark similar settings to what they were on GeForce Experience when GeForce Experience was around, just to see if they've improved things. And they have, which is kind of cool. Notifications, I personally turn those off, but if you are clipping stuff and you're new to it, I would recommend leaving it on with all of this on. And heads up display, you can customize your statistics. And personally, I just disable the shortcuts, but that is preference, honestly. So let's get to the benchmarks. These tests are conducted with these specs. Do not expect identical results on your hardware. That said, you can expect similar scaling with my recommendation. All right, Cyberpunk 2077 in 4K. So no NVIDIA app installed at all. Frame rate's looking quite nice here. Now, keep in mind, this is on my new 5090, right? So obviously it's quite nice, but I am testing both games. So we're testing Cyberpunk and Call of Duty Black Ops 6 today in low settings, like optimized low settings, so just maximize the frame rate just to see what kind of frames you'd lose. And I did 4K and 1080p because I wanted to see in a GPU bound situation and a CPU bound situation. I didn't want to bother with anything else. So with the NVIDIA app installed, but everything turned off, but the NVIDIA overlay AltZ still on, it looks like benchmark variation here. We didn't lose much at all. With the statistics overlay, this is the one I really wanted to test. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do the video today. You used to lose 60 FPS with this. And like I mentioned before, Hardware Unboxed did a video and they couldn't quite figure out what it was. And they just recommend everyone to just disable it. Sorry, to uninstall the NVIDIA app. But you don't really need to do that anymore. It's fine if you want to use the statistics overlay. They've patched that, so it's good to see. Recording and replay buffering. I've always seen about 10 frames lost And just keep in mind that was with the settings that I showed you before. So it looks like here, yeah, it's just around about 10 frames all up, 10 roughly, and 10 on the, yeah, okay, maybe a little bit more on the 1% lows and 0.1% lows. But it's, I'm going to do a video soon, guys, on like benchmarking with different recording software, but the NVIDIA app is your best bet compared to anything else. It'll use the encoder the best. And then filters, this was really, really cool to see. So filters, we didn't really lose that many frames compared to how it used to be. It used to be like 100 FPS. So that was kind of cool. So filters are kind of viable if you don't mind a bit of an FPS hit. I mean, what are we losing here? Like 35? That's not bad. That's way better compared to 100, how it used to be with GeForce Experience, or at least when the NVIDIA app first came out. All right, Cyberpunk 2077 in 1080p. So I don't know really what happened on the first run without the NVIDIA app, because our frame rate went quite high, but the 1% lows are a little bit worse. So I'll just call this one kind of a dud bench, and yeah, the NVIDIA app installed with nothing on but just AltZ enabled. Yeah, let's just ignore that part, because that didn't really make any sense. So just ignore that one, I guess. But yeah, NVIDIA app installed, we'll just say like no difference, honestly. Statistics overlay, like hardly a difference, only a couple of frames. That's cool to see. Looks like 10 1% lows and roughly 10 0.1% lows lost. So obviously, like having the statistics overlay is a bit of an FPS here. You know what's interesting though? Like I said before, you used to lose 60 FPS with this when the NVIDIA app first came out. And what would happen is you would accidentally toggle it on, and then you'd still lose the 60 even if you turned it off, and you'd have to restart the PC once you turned it off to get those frames back. But it's cool, they've basically fixed it. But frame view actually has less overhead than this, so that's kind of interesting. Filters, you know what's really interesting? Yeah, it makes sense. We're on 1080p here with the 5090, and we're not even GPU bound here, so we didn't see any frame rate loss. So, you know, if you're playing with a good card in a CPU bound situation, you might not really notice any frame rate loss there. So that's cool. And that's exactly why I benchmarked in 1080p and 4K today, especially with the 5090. Record and replay buffer, it's usually always been at 10 FPS, and it looks like roughly 10, I guess. It's kind of looking a little bit more than 10. I feel like this is worse than GeForce Experience. GeForce Experience used to just be 10. I'm kind of seeing more than 10 here, but it's still not bad. Like the NVIDIA app's still going to be a best bet. But like I said before, I'm going to be doing a video shortly on recording with different apps like OBS, Metal, SteelSeries, Steam, just to benchmark the best one. All right, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 in 4K. No NVIDIA app installed at all. Frame rate, 1% lows we're getting. NVIDIA app installed just with the NVIDIA overlay. AltZ on, that's it, nothing else. Basically the same. Pretty much the same, identical. Statistics overlay. Small hit on the 1% and 0.1% lows. Worse than what frame view would do. Record and replay buffer. And yeah, looks like 10 FPS lost there. Yeah, 10. She's always been about 10, but it was weird with Cyberpunk before, so might depend on the game too, I guess. But it's not bad. If you want to record, just use NVIDIA app. It's going to be better than anything else. And filters on 4K. We took a 30 FPS hit roughly. So with filters. So wow, they've fixed filters. That's awesome. Let's do 1080p with Black Ops 6. So where are we here? 1080p with Black Ops 6. No NVIDIA app installed. 546 FPS. The NVIDIA app installed. 539. So I'm just going to call that maybe a slightly bad run, or maybe in a situation where high frame rate but also GPU bound, that might be a small hit with the NVIDIA app overlay AltZ on. I very much doubt that. I'd say that's just benchmark variation. Statistics overlay. What are you up to? Yeah, small hit on 1% lows and frames. No, not even. That time, maybe a small hit on FPS here. So it's really not a big deal. Record, replay buffer, record and replay buffer at the same time. Because they don't stack, you can record and replay buffer and you still won't lose more. And that's, yeah, what's that? 1020 FPS or something. Usually about 10. And filters, and yeah, filters once again. It was interesting. We're losing like almost 50 FPS in 1080p low compared to 4K, was 4K was only 30. So, but still, honestly, that is way better than what it used to be like with when the NVIDIA app first came out, or what GeForce used to be. It used to be 100. So really nice improvement. So not sort of how I figured the NVIDIA video would go today. I actually thought this was going to be a lot worse, but I guess good on NVIDIA for improving their NVIDIA app. The problem with software like this is it's quite a high possibility they could mess this up again later. So, you know, I've done these tests and then they do an update, which you can't choose which version you're on for the NVIDIA app. They force you on the latest all the time. They could mess this up again, but at least at the moment, as of today, as of now, it looks like they've fixed a lot of the issues with the filters and specifically statistics overlay when you would lose frames. That's really cool to see. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Hope it helped. I'll see you guys in the next video. Enjoy.